In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to play animations, crossfading in between them, and also having intermediate animations for two different animations that don't have the same pose, so that you can change between them without having popping between textures. And I'll get to that later. We're going to start by playing, then crossfading, and then doing the intermediate animations. So the first thing we're going to do, we have the bone animation set up in a scene, and the chef animation attached to that bone animation. And I'm actually going to be using animation data from the Rise of the Dough game instead of creating each of the animations. I'm just going to show you how to transition between them. So that's the key focus in this tutorial. So the first thing let's do is change this bone animation name to call it something a little more descriptive like chef animation. And let's also create a new game object, just an empty one. Let's call that chef. Let's reset the position. And then let's drag the chef animation underneath the chef. Now the reason I do this is I like to have my animations all by themselves with no other scripts on them, just the animation. And that way I can attach all my scripts to the root object of the chef. And that way it doesn't have a lot of clutter. So let's create a chef script. Let's right click on the demo folder and C# script. Let's name that chef. And let's open that. Now mine's going to open in MonoDevelop. You can use a text editor or Visual Studio, whatever you're most comfortable with. First thing I'm going to do is use the Smooth Moves library. This allows me to use shortcuts so I don't have to type smooth moves dot whatever function or method or member. It's just a lot faster. So let's set up a public access to the chef animation. That way we can reference that in the Unity developer environment. Let's go down to the update function and look for some input. Let's look for the left arrow key down. And if it's hit, then we'll play the chef animation of stand. Sorry, run. And then if we release the key, then we'll go back to stand. So let's save that. I can just minimize that, come back to Unity, and we'll go to our chef object and then drag the chef script. I already have the chef here, so it doesn't like that. So let's call this something different. Let's call this chef 2. I also need to rename the object here. So let's save this, go back to Unity, click on chef, let's drag this over. So now we have a chef script attached to our chef object, and you see it has a chef animation looking for one. So let's drag our animation here. That's what it's going to reference. So that when we hit our left arrow key, it's going to play the animations on this animation. So let's go ahead and hit play. So now you see our chef here is just standing there. Now if we hit the left arrow key, he starts running. And if we release it, he stops. But you can see it's very jumpy. It just goes straight to the animations, which doesn't look very natural. It's very a hard cutoff, which is not what we really want. So let's stop this. Go back to MonoDevelop. And instead of playing, let's try crossfading. Save that and go back here. Hit play again. So now the chef is standing there, and we hit the left arrow key. You can see there's a little bit of delay between them. It kind of crossfades between, then I release and it goes back. It's a little smoother, but if you'll notice something here on his leg, on this leg, it'll flip. You can see it rotate, which is not really desirable because it makes his leg look flat. In this case, why that's happening is because the chef is actually switching between two poses. One pose, his legs facing this way, and then the run pose, his legs facing the other way. So you can see it's rotating, which is not really pretty. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to have an intermediate animation. And if we go back to our animation editor, you can see I've created a stand to run and a run to stand animation. So on the stand to run animation, what that does is it immediately flips the leg facing, you can see in the stand animation, it faces to the right here. And when you go stand and run, it immediately flips it over and then goes into the run pose here. And basically what I did is I just take the first frames here, make that the last frames here, so when it joins up in the stand animation, last frames here are the first frames here. So you got your stand, you got your run, and then you got your in between. A little bit of animation and the immediate flip of the leg. So I'm going to play those back to back so that the transition's a little smoother. And I should point out, I also have the run to stand, which is just the opposite. It goes from run, you can see I flip the leg immediately out because at the end of the run animation, it's pointing down. So in this one, I point it directly out so that when he comes down and lands, he's all set to go for the stand animation. And instead of just playing run immediately, we're going to play stand to run and then run. So let's start by stand to run and then run. Sorry, this should be play cued. So it's going to play this immediately, and then after that it'll play the cued animation of run. And then the opposite we'll do here, so we'll do run to stand and then play cued stand. So this will just play these in order. So let's save it and go back and hit play. So now the chef is standing there. When we hit the left arrow key, you can see there's a middle animation that plays between them. It's a little fast, but if you notice here, when I hit the left arrow key, his leg will change immediately, so there's no rotation. And he kind of goes up into a running position, and then when he comes back down, he's got a nice transition to the stand animation. So that's how to do intermediate animations.